Hi everybody, it's Sarah the Attic Stitcher. This is November 26, 2025, and I think this is Flosstube 11, maybe it's Flosstube 12. I don't remember, but whatever it is, you see it in the title. It has been a while since I recorded a Flosstube. Life kind of got a little busy with different things. I got focused in on completing a tablecloth that I shared in my last Flosstube, in order to get it as complete as I could before returning it to the owner for Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving is tomorrow, so that has been returned to the owner so that way they can do their family tradition, and after Thanksgiving they'll be getting back with me so that way I can complete the new additions to the signatures and stuff on the tablecloth. So that took up so much of my creative time that I didn't stitch on anything at all, pretty much, since my last Flosstube. And the whips that I have to share with you today, most of them I haven't touched since my craft retreat weekend in September. There's only one that I have touched, and that's just been in the last week. So, but I've been doing well. I hope everybody else is. I started to get a little more active on Instagram, and today I was planning to start a new project, and I was like, you know, I should probably record a Flosstube so I can share the haul and stuff first and the prep work that I have done before actually stitching on it, because I want to like commemorate this being day one start date for this project. So I'll get into that later. So with that being said, let me just address the fact that yes, indeed, I do have my Christmas tree set up before Thanksgiving. This is Kit, this is Sister. Brother's on the floor. He's probably going to feel very left out in just a moment. He's already priming himself for perfect attack position to go after his sisters as they sit on this chair. But yes, I already have my Christmas tree set up. This was a year where I wanted to have some joy. So I've had my trees, I have 2 trees set up since November 16th. I've never been a Christmas anything before Thanksgiving. I've always waited till after Thanksgiving, or at least till December 1st before setting up anything, but this year I wanted the trees up. I wanted some joy and happiness, and so I've got them set up. This is my living room tree. It has some of my miscellaneous ornaments, or ornaments that have been gifted to me, and then it also has ornaments that I have collected from my different travels, like this one here is one I got. I think this is from Ireland. Ireland. That's the Giant's Causeway in Ireland. So this is that tree. My other tree is set up in my library room, and that one has all of my tangled ornaments that I have collected, and a couple of just generic Disney ornaments as well. So, but that is my library room tree. I never thought I would be a 2-tree household, and then last year I became a 2-tree household. And this year I became a set up your Christmas stuff before Thanksgiving person. We'll see if that happens again next year. I'm all about set it up whenever it brings you joy. And this year, it just so happened that it brings me joy well before Thanksgiving, which is fine. And if it doesn't bring you joy before Thanksgiving, that's fine too. So anyway, with that kind of out of the way, and Sister observing and watching over our shoulder here, let's get to it. I have, I think I mentioned already, 4 whips to share. 3 of them I haven't worked on since September, and 1 I have only just picked up in this last week. I have a haul / new start that I'm going to share. Haven't technically started any of the stitching on it, but I've done all the prep work so I can sit down and start it. And then we'll go over my plans. So let's get to, let's get to it. So the first whip that I have to share with you is the Butterfly Faeries. This is from Lanarte, Leisure Arts. This is a project that I started back in May of this year, May of 2025. I hosted a stitch-along for Melanoma Awareness Month that I called Wings of Hope Sal, and the idea was to just stitch on anything that has wings, whether it be fairies, angels, birds, bugs. If it had wings, it qualified, and so you could pick whatever you wanted. And like I said, it was for Melanoma Awareness Month. It was in recognition of my, at the time, recent diagnosis of melanoma. And don't chew on my tree, kitten. And then I did it in May, not just for Melanoma Awareness Month, but because in May I wasn't expecting that I would get a lot of posting done because I had surgery at the beginning to remove the area on my face and all of that. That all went well, and it's healing relatively nicely and stuff. So it's just kind of been recovery mode from the stress this past few months because it's been a very stressful year. And anyway, so this is the one that I picked to start for that Sal, and I don't think I've made a ton of progress since the last time I shared it with you all, but I'm pretty sure I've done at least a little bit. And so here is where I am at on her. So I have her antenna all done. I think the last time I had picked her up, my main focus was on filling in gaps on her body. My cat brother has this obsession with jumping up and pulling magnets off of my fridge, so that's what he just did. So I was working on filling in the areas on her body, and so I think I filled in some of her shirt, and then I've started on her hair to kind of pull her hair down and out to work on that. And I think it's just like maybe this little section here, filling in the hair, that is new from the last time I shared it. And maybe I could be wrong and you've already seen all of this, but it's been 2 months, so, you know. Anyway, so this is Butterfly Faeries. I am stitching this on a 32 count white Belfast linen with the called for DMC. I'm saying if you ever pick this pattern up and you decide you want to stitch it, my cats decide to start doing things when I record. And I don't know what sound that was, but nothing sounds like it's crashing. If you pick this up and decide you want to stitch it, I would highly recommend getting one of the like opalescent fabrics, the ones that have the sparkle threads throughout them. This is just a regular linen, which I think might even be what it calls for. Is it what it's called for? It calls for an antique white, and I got just a white Belfast linen. But I think that if you were to get one of those opalescents that shimmer, it'll look really pretty, especially the wings on the fairies are all done in half stitch, so that sparkle would come through. I didn't do that for this one, for mine, and I'm happy with what I'm stitching it on, but I'm just saying I think it would be really pretty to do it that way as well. So that is my first whip to share with you all. Next up, I have the Winter Queen from Mirabi. I started her in 2024, January of 2024 for her birthday start. And I am stitching her on a 28 count Gothic Lugana from Picture This Plus. And again, this is one where I don't think I made a lot of progress compared to where she was at the last time I shared her with you all, but I have made some. So here's her in her full glory. Oh, hold on. I'm not used to having to back this with something, and of course what I have isn't going to be long enough. Here she is in her so far stitched glory. She's quite large, which is fine. She is called to be stitched on like a white fabric. Yeah, just a white linen. I think what I have been stitching my butterfly fairies on. Because that's, anyway, the called for is just a plain white linen. And that just didn't seem like what she needed. So what have we done? Interesting. Oh, I know what I've done, I think. Why do I have so many hanging threads? Anyways, I don't know. You can tell it's been a couple months since I've worked on this because I'm like, I don't remember why I was doing it this way. So this is where I have been working. I've been working on filling in these like blocks of colors for the folds of her dress. I was saying something before I got distracted by all these danglies. The life of a stitcher when you've not been working on projects. I want to say when I had her, let me tell you, in September when I went on my weekend retreat for cross stitching, it was a time. I got there, I had all my projects, I was excited, I was pulling out my stuff to start working on them, and I realized I didn't have my Q-snap, so I couldn't work on her at first, which was disappointing. So then I pulled out the project that I had brought that was a stitch in hand that I could work on in hand, and realized I didn't bring my needles or scissors. So I had none of my notions. Cats, really? Hold on. Hold, please. Sorry. I think we're good now. So my weekend retreat. So I didn't have any of my notions in order to be stitching. So that was a time. So I didn't get any stitching done my first evening there. And I ended up, thankfully, somebody, my sister-in-law was coming. So she was able to stop by my house and pick up my notions and stuff. So I was able to actually do some stitching for the rest of the weekend. But it was just not a great start to the weekend to get there and realize you brought all your projects, brought all your threads, but didn't bring the stuff you needed to actually work on them. So anyways, and I feel like when I was working on her, I was doing something where I was like just leaving the threads and was going to be like working them in later, or like letting me, I was being lazy, and so I was following the example of Katie from Red Stitchery and just like, taking the end of my thread and pulling it through where I was going to be stitching over anyways to do that. I think that's what I was doing because I was being lazy and didn't want to constantly be turning around to weave in my thread. Anyway, that is The Winter Queen by Mirabi. Number 3 is I Cannot Live Without Books from Thomas Jefferson. I picked this up on a trip to the historic triangle. And this is one that I've been stitching mainly in hand because it's one that I take with me, like if I go to visit my grandma or anything like that. And here's where I'm at. So finally, I have the entire frame stitched out. I've still got like over here, oops, hello. Over here, they're all like half stitched, so I have to go back and complete these stitches. But I finally got it worked out to have the frame all finished. I don't know, I was just having so much trouble with this, constantly counting, recounting, being off, and having to figure out how can I make this work without undoing everything. And so what I ended up doing is adding this side border. I think is supposed to be 2 stitches across, but I have done 3 stitches across because I ended up like making this wider than it was supposed to be. And so just in order to make it work without having to completely undo everything, that's what I ended up doing. So, but everything else should be good and should line up the way that it is supposed to line up. So hopefully once I get this border finished, then I'll be able to start working on the more fun elements, like the kind of knot designs that are in each of these squares and the quote with the book motif and stuff. So, but the border is complete all the way around. I just have to finish crossing the X's. Finally. I think I was about to go certifiably insane over it. Now, my project that I have actually worked on, and actually if you have followed me on Instagram, you probably have seen the progress I have made on her because I posted a reel showing the before and after of the back stitching that I ended up doing. So here is my Rapunzel from Make It Pink Designs by Ashley May. This is based off of artwork by Hannah Alexander Artwork. Tangled, if it wasn't obvious by the fact that I said that I have a Tangled themed Christmas tree, is my favorite Disney film of all time. Favorite Disney princess of all time. I collect everything Tangled. So this was like an immediate, once I discovered Ashley May, I have to have this design. So I completed her face. I think last time I shared that I was going to wait to fill in her facial features because I was like, that's going to be my reward for finishing all the 1/1 stitching that I have to do on her chest. But when I finally got around to being able to pick up my stitching and work on what I wanted to work on, I didn't want to save that. I wanted to do her face. So I finished stitching the 1/1 on her mouth and her eyes, and then I went in and did all of the back stitching that I could on her hair and her face. And then I brought down this purple on her dress a little more because my next goal is going to be to bring down the purple and come up on this side because somehow I've gotten an extra like row in here on this element of her hair, and so I don't want to anchor anything off of this area, but I know I'm good on this side of her face. So I'm planning to bring this down and come up and just kind of not focus on anchoring from this. So that way I can then go in and have the outlines for finishing up the 1/1 skin. But the back stitching, oh my goodness, I love how it brings the project to life. If you really want to see how dramatic of a difference it makes, go look at my Instagram. Like I said, I posted a reel where I kind of revealed the back stitching after I completed it, but I also did a regular post if you don't like the video format and want to, you know, have all the time you want to look at it. I did find that I had some mistakes in my 1/1, but I was not going to undo any of that. So I made it work, and I think she looks pretty good. So her flower crown and head is complete for all the stitch work. So the cross stitch and the back stitch. There's spots for beads, but that will be the very last. So now I'm gonna keep making my way down her dress. So I'm very excited to make some more progress on her. It's been a slow going. This is almost a year's worth of work, but not constant work, because I have taken a few breaks on working on her and had more expanses of time where I wasn't working on her. But I started her in January of 2025 for my birthday. And she is being stitched on a piece of 30 count Zweigart flax linen from Jacksonfabricarts in the colorway Arizona Sunset. So there's that. And I love it. It's such a pretty pink and the modeling is just gorgeous. So it just felt perfect for Rapunzel. So those are my whips. So I'm very excited to get to start doing some more work on my different whips and make more progress on them now that I am not feeling rushed with a deadline. So the next thing that I have to share with you all is my haul/new start. I haven't technically started the actual cross stitching on this project yet, but I've gotten all the items together that are in stock for it and have prepped all the stuff. I actually today just posted a reel for prepping my threads for this project, and that is UA from Make It Pink Designs, again based off of artwork from Hannah Alexander. I don't have a preview picture to share, but go check out Pinky's work. It is beautiful, beautiful conversions of beautiful artwork to cross stitch, and the detail is amazing, and it's just really well done. It's the same designer who did Rapunzel. So, but this is UA, who is a character from the animated show Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm actually doing this for my housemate. When I told her that Ashley from Make It Pink Designs was having a sale for 10 years of Hannah Alexander, she looked through the designs and said, "Sarah, what do I have to do to get UA?" And I was like, "If you buy all the supplies, I will stitch her, as long as you don't complain about how long it is going to take me." Because I've had Rapunzel for a year almost, and have just finished her head. So I make no promises on how long it will take me to finish, but she was fine with that. So I helped her, I told her, I'll get all the threads and stuff in a cart and we can check it out. And then the biggest thing was finding the fabric and stuff. So anyways, my threads are sitting on top of the fabric. So we got all of the threads for UA. And they're all prepped and ready. Some of these won't be used as much, like these browns and stuff are just UA skin. These silvers and purples are all in her dress, so those will get used quite a bit. And then but they're just such pretty colors, okay? And then for the fabric, we have this. This is, again, Jacksonfabricarts. This is the 30 count flax linen in her colorway Jakobstad. So my friend kind of told me how she was kind of picturing it to look, and so I shared with her a bunch of different options, and this is the one that we ended up liking the best. So let's see if I can. But I think it's going to make these pop, I think, really well. So it's very, very exciting. I spent quite a bit of time prepping. I did a center line, marked my center, I found I don't really like gridding out, but I like marking my center line. So I spent time getting that marked so I have a reference point for that, especially with how I like to start my pieces. I prefer to start at the top center, so it's very important to have a center line mark for me in order to do that. The one thing about Make It Pink Designs is if you love beads and sparkle, you're going to get it. So in addition to the DMCs, you also have Krynic. Now Krynic, as many of you probably know, was recently, in this past year, was under new ownership, and they're going through adjusting their production methods and stuff. So there's some Krynics that are kind of hard to come by right now, because they're not fast to restock due to, the adjustment period when adjusting to a new production process. But I was able to get 2 of the, I think 6 Krynics, which they're all these 2 colors. And there's like the blending filament and then number 4 braid and one other style. But we've got the 2 Krynics. Let me take them out of the bag so that way the glare isn't quite as bad. And another thing is Krynic, one of the reasons why it's taking so long is they're switching over from using the spools to the cards. Some people aren't happy about this. I really don't care. It doesn't bother me either way. So, but these are the 2 colors that are called for. I'm pretty sure it's just these 2 colors, just in different like thicknesses. So these are the blending filaments for the 2 colors. So it's BF014 is this one. And then this one is BF032, which is more of the like white clear. So that's exciting. I've not yet actually experienced stitching with Krynic because I've not gotten to the Krynic. Well, I can't say that. I've used Krynic on the Winter Queen. But that was like Krynic number 8 braid, I think, because it's like the thickest braid, right? Number 8 is thicker than number 4. And it was just like a few stitches in her hair. So I don't really think that can qualify for stitching with Krynic. But with Rapunzel, no, actually, I don't think Rapunzel has any Krynic. But UA does. UA has Krynic. And UA also has beads. Here's the thing. Ashley has a partnership with, and now I'm not going to be able to remember what they're called by, but she has a partnership with a small business that will make bead packs for all of her patterns if you want to use them. So if you want to use them but you don't want a ton of extra beads, or you don't want to have to figure out how many packages of Mill Hill beads you need to buy, you're able to go through them, which is great. I think it's an awesome service to provide. I don't care about it, and I'm fine with having extras to build up my stash. So I have that. So I think I already shared in one of my previous floss tubes, I have the optional, technically, star beads and buttons that are used on UA. Somebody in the Make It Pink Facebook group finished UA, and I think these really are a stunning addition to it. I think they kind of add something to it. So I've got these. And then we have all of the beads. So many beads. There's like a few thousand beads on this pattern, and I think it's this one where I had to buy like 9 packages of it. So let me pull out here really quick. Or maybe it was this one. It's a petite. Yeah, it's going to have to be for the number that I'm pulling out. So there are, how many different types of beads. And there's also 2 types of treasure that UA calls for. So there's petite beads, there's regular glacis beads, there's treasure. Okay, yeah. So the one that's called for the most is the Mill Hill 42010, which is her petite. And they're kind of like a clear white. In order to have enough for what she calls for in the pattern, you have to buy 9 packages of the beads. So 9 packages of 42010 for UA, which is exciting, but also, oh my goodness, that's a lot of beads. It also calls for petite glass 4016-1, so 4016-1, which again, they're more of an iridescent white. There it goes. And some of these only calls for a few, so there's some that I'll have a ton left over. There's some that's going to use up pretty much all of them. It also for petite calls for 42017, which is a kind of blue, clear blue of the petite. Really pretty. The character UA from Avatar, she's part of the northern waterbending tribe. And I don't feel like this is a spoiler because Avatar's been around for so much. She turns into the moon, so she's got a lot of silvers and blues for waterbending, but also the fact that she turns into the moon. It's a whole thing. It's rough, buddy. So those are the petite beads. Oh, no. Yep. And then we have glassy beads. This is 02010, which again is kind of like a larger version of the 42010. It's just kind of a clear. Then you have 00161, which again is just the glacis bead version of this kind. And then you have glacis bead 02017, which again is just the seed bead version of the petite that I showed. So just a slightly larger version. Then you have frosted glass beads, 62010, which is a cool, I don't even know quite how to describe them, but the frosted, yeah, they're like a silver almost bead. So there's those. I think they're the same size, yeah. They're almost like if you mattified these. You just made these matte. That's what you got there. And then the treasures. Like I said, there's 2 types of treasures. There's this one, which is 13001. So they're like little flat, like they're almost like daisy shaped treasures. Let's see, it's kind of hard to show with the glare and stuff, but it calls for 3 and 3 comes in a package, so it works out well there. You only have to buy one of these. But there's those. kind of shows it there in the corner pretty well. And then the final treasure, which you need 3, and it comes one in a package, so you need 3 packages if you're buying like me and not going through Ashley's partner, is 13051, which is like a teardrop shape. And like I said, you just need 3 of those. So it's going to be really pretty, lots of sparkle. So I'm very excited for that. So next time I come on, hopefully I will have some stitches in on UA to share with you. I'm debating if I'm going to start UA right after finishing to film this, or if I'm going to pick a different project to work on a little bit. But I think I'm going to start on UA because I'm excited to get to start on her. So those are my whips. That's my new start / haul. And plans. So I'm thinking I'm going to adjust my posting schedule. I was doing like every other week posting, but I've always kind of felt like I didn't always have a lot to share. So I guess it comes down to, I'm thinking I'm going to go down to posting once a month. So this will be my November episode, and I'll post it on the last Friday of the month would be my thought process. So this will be posted on Friday. I'm recording on Wednesday, which usually I record and post same day, but I ended up recording early this time. But I think that's what I'm leaning towards doing, so I won't do another one until the end of December. But I don't know. I could decide that I want to keep up with the every other week to kind of keep myself accountable again with my stitching and making sure that I like touch everything and make progress on different things and stuff, and to just kind of document. But I feel like the once a month might work better with just the amount of progress I'm able to make in that time frame. But if you have a preference, let me know in the comments. Would you prefer to have like every other week, just maybe not as much progress, or would a once a month be more your style, or is it just whatever works for me? That's fine too. That's a valid option too. But at this time, that's kind of what I'm feeling, is to just do once a month and post on the last Friday of the month. I'll post more on my Instagram. So if I end up doing the once a month and you want to keep up a little more regularly with me, then head over to my Instagram at Sarah_the_Attic_Stitcher. So you can go there. I'll definitely post more in my stories and stuff as I work on things, and have fun reels like the one that I did today with prepping my flosses for UA. So that, I think, covers everything. Since tomorrow, well, I guess by the time I actually post this, yesterday would have been Thanksgiving for you all. What was your favorite Thanksgiving food item that you had? I like each and every food item that I have on Thanksgiving. I especially love stuffing / dressing. People call it one or the other. I've always called it stuffing, and I love that stuff. And my mom's side of the family makes it completely different than my dad's side of the family does. But for my family, Thanksgiving, I'm in charge of making the stuffing, and I'm going to make it like my dad's side of the family, because it's not quite as complicated as my mom's side of the family. But anyway, let me know what you think. What would you like to see for posting schedule, and what was your favorite food that you had for Thanksgiving? And I will, if I don't see you all in 2 weeks, I will see you all at the end of December. And I hope you all have a great time stitching. Bye.